Warning: the following podcast contains violent scenes that may be unsettling to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. In 1942, in the cold desert of a small border town in Texas, a group of kind are kidnapped and mass embraced by members of the fanatical sect, the Sabbat. Out of this group, only a handful survived, and through rituals and mentorship they became the pack known as the Pale Riders. Representing the Sword of Caine, they are wielded by a mentor to cut deep wounds within the heartland of Mexico to the enemies of the Sabbat. Juarez on Fire is a Vampire the Masquerade Sabbat chronicle that follows the Pale Riders pack that consists of Mitch, a Lazambra played by Adam, Coyote, a Ravenos anti-tribute played by Alex, Eldrick, a Caitiff played by David, Jasper, a Bruja anti-tribute played by Joaquin, Cora, a Shimizi played by Slavic, and Richard, a Ventrue anti-tribute played by Tillman. If you'd like to contact us, you can find us on Twitter at twin_cities_VTM or on Facebook at Twin Cities by Night. We hope you enjoy.
Before you guys were embraced, we're going to kind of go down the line with you three. I'll cover Quinn's later. I'll actually even say it here. But for Mitchell, for yours, you were actually, it was an evening on your ranch. You're sitting outside, looking at the endless stars, waiting for Father Time to come and catch up to you, to tap you on the shoulder. As always, that bastard wasn't around. But you do think you heard a noise coming from by your shed, which had you leading to wonder if it was like, coyotes again or something to that extent, which always kind of gave you a pleasure being able to grab your shotgun or your 22 that you had, for such small matters, to go over there and take out some of your frustration on them. As you walk around to the shed and think you hear a noise, you don't see anything until when you turn back around, you see a shovel coming at you and smacks you right in the front of your face there. Cora, you're out there, sitting in your kitchen, sitting at this table, looking at the peeling lime green wallpaper in the shack that, this little house/shack that you have on this ranch, staring at this cup of coffee that you reheated a couple times on your oven, just thinking about how you're alone right now and how you actually would rather have been alone 40-some years ago when you married that deadbeat asshole alcoholic of a husband you had who kind of gave you the two worthless kids, except for your one baby who was taken from you unjustly. And you're just sitting there staring into this coffee with a cigarette and an ashtray with the smoke lifting up into the air. You kind of hear a tapping on your window, like a little tap, 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 like someone's throwing pebbles at it. You go out, you go to your kitchen to the sink and you look out and you don't see anything out there. You just kind of see the barbed wire that marks off the ranch there where you kind of have some livestock, but nothing to the effect of like a man in a younger age with a full family could take care of, but enough to keep you busy. You go sit back down at your coffee, take a drag of your cigarette with your hands slightly shaking due to old age, and you hear the tapping again. As you go to look out this window, and this window is probably about 2 feet by 3 feet, and it's right outside, right above your sink. You go look out again, and as you put your face closer to the window, two hands burst through and grab you and violently drag you through this shattered window, cutting your flesh, cutting your face, causing an amount of pain. You even get stuck a little bit due to the girth that you've kind of picked up over. A lot of it still kind of being muscle there. And finally, you're dragged where it even kind of takes the frame of the window out while you're yanked. You fall on the ground, and as you look up, you see a dark form above you and a shovel coming down and smacking you upside your head. Next, we'll go to you, Eldrick. You have made contacts, some with some less than savory folks, trying to talk to what you think could be something that can share eternal life with you and remove this plague and cancer that struck your body. At this point, you don't care what risks or how unsafe the situation may seem, because you frankly don't give a damn, because it's either this or death.
Yeah, it doesn't
so
have
either
the time.
way. Yeah, he doesn't have the time. So you drive to this small shit fucking cowboy hick town in Texas, the name that you can't even really remember. You just kind of have your driver there take you there. And you come about and you drive through this sign where it says like population 2,000. You come across this fucking shit kicker bar where you could kind of hear some rumbling from inside. and you're told to kind of wait in the parking lot for someone to find you. As you're standing there, you're standing outside. Your driver, who's in one of the, at the time, kind of a fashionable automobile that a lot of people actually don't have, is sitting there. You're standing out there, desperate, but yet starting to get angry because you're not seeing anyone. They're waiting for you. You're wondering if this was again another letdown, until you hear screaming from within the car. As you turn and you look inside the car, you can't see what is going on. You see blood that's splattering against the windshield from your driver. That makes it hard to make out at all what's going on in there. But you hear the car shaking and you hear it screaming. You're kind of obviously taken aback. And as you turn around to run off, boom, you get hit in the face with the shovel that knocks you unconscious there at that moment. All right, so you guys each awaken on your knees with your hands bound behind your back. As you regain your consciousness, you're kind of leaning over your knees and you realize you're staring at sand and a desert ground. You smell like the ragweed in the air and you smell the dust. You start realizing it's night out, but it's hard to determine it's night because of all the sand that's being kicked around. And as you kind of like look up and kind of lift your heads up and look around, you realize that there's a crowd of people around you. You can't make out how many. You just realize that you're able to even make out that there's people because of light that's coming from behind you, either from that of some automobiles, but you also smell the smell of burning dry wood, and you can hear the crackle of a rather large fire that seems to be going on behind you. So you can kind of make out what's going on with these people. You hear a mixture of Spanish and English, and really you're kind of shaken at this point. You can't you're having a hard time focus, obviously due to being shoveled in the face. But you hear laughter coming. Some of it sounds in a way, and you don't know if it's just garbled because you might be slightly concussed, but it sounds almost animalistic, some of the laughter. But you also start hearing screaming, crying, and begging. And as you're really you start getting a sense of danger and you start having clarity, you're yanked up from the back of your head, from the hair, or from, if you don't have hair, a forehead comes up upon your forehead and yanks you back to where your neck's exposed. And you feel pain as fangs come down upon your neck. And at first, again, you start panicking, but then you're overcame by a sense of pleasure. As the sense of pleasure goes on, you're sitting there and you're kind of falling inside your head, and everything's zoning out around you, and you just start focusing. You start hearing like the pumping of your heart, and it's like with each pump and beat of your heart, another wave of pleasure is overtaking you. And it's almost like when someone who's a crack addict and says there's nothing like the first time they took a hit of crack, it slowly starts becoming like that, because as your heart rate slows down and down, that pleasure starts disappearing, and you start yearning for it more and yearning for it more, until the point where all that blackness just disappears and you're brought back into reality, but your face is in the dirt, and you feel very, very, that you have a very loose grasp on life. Mitchell, you yourself at this moment almost is experiencing a sense of joy, because you finally feel like this is what you've been wanting the whole time. This feeling that you're finally about to let this mortal coil go and be over with all this shit that you've dealt with, all the crap that you've seen, the loneliness that you dealt with sitting on that goddamn porch for as long as you've been sitting on there. David, your character Eldrick feels a sense of disappointment and almost like an anger, like that willpower that's kept him alive for so long is like not wanting to let that grip go. Like you're pissed off now because you're like, this is not what you signed up for. This is not the bargain that you had. And you, Cora, at the time are actually kind of not even feeling anything at the moment. You just know that like you're down to your primal basic, like just you either can let go or you can either die. And as your face is in this dirt and you can feel the grit of the sand, you feel your guys' self getting lifted up. Now, at first you think it's your spirit almost like leaving your body, or it's almost like you should be seeing a light soon. But then you slowly realize that you're being thrown. And when I say you're being thrown, it's not like you're sitting like wee or feel anything, but you feel like yourself being uplifted, and then you feel yourself falling. And as you guys are falling, you land, and you feel like almost like for a quick second, you feel alive, like fully alive again, because you feel a sharp pain. And as you're sitting there, just waiting for it to be all done, you kind of realize there's people under you. And you, Cora, you open your eyes a little bit and you look and you see someone exactly right underneath you. And they're looking up at you, and you could kind of see that their pupils dilated and you have no idea what to think. You guys eventually try to natural instinct to look up, and all you see is figures, a silhouette. You can't make out any of their features. You just see their shadows, and you see the light that's coming across them, and you hear laughing, and you just hear like this monstrous, just laughing or just like high pitched women laugh, like of insanity coming, just all this mixed together until finally you start feeling wetness. And there's that one moment where Eldrick feels like a drop that hits his face, like in between his eyes, and then his nose, almost like it's rain. And then a drop of it touches your lip. And at that drop that touches your lip, and as it infuses itself in your gums and on your tongue, because your mouth is slightly open, that willpower and that drive that you feel, all of a sudden it's like if someone took a gasoline and threw it on a fire. And you realize that that was hitting your mouth and that was hitting your lips was what you would need to survive. So you desperately start gulping. And the same happens to you, Cora. As you're sitting here looking at this person's eyes and you're trying to look up from the side of your head, a drop hits the side of your cheek and slowly makes it down. And then some more actually starts cascading. And you feel a drop of it touch your lip, and you realize that this is what's going to take you out of this, out of dying practically. But Mitch, you're kind of torn when this happens to you, because you want to let go, but you're starting to feel like this right here is making you feel how you were before you kind of gave up on life. Am I making sense here? You know how you're kind of wait for death to come and challenge you, but this is before that. This is before when you were like fighting on the border, or when you were in World War I, or when you were out there like feeling that adrenaline rush. It kind of hit you. And so all three of you, including obviously the other two players and others that are in this pit, start trying to get more of this that has a coppery taste. And soon some of you may even start realizing this tastes almost like blood, or when I bit my lip, or whenever I like cut my finger and I taste upon it. But it's different in a way too. As you guys are getting more of this in you, though, you feel something at first with Dave with this drive to live, and it's the same with you, Mitchell and Cora, but you almost feel like falling, and you almost feel like you're losing control of yourself. Like you start feeling your heartbeat like die off, but you start feeling like yourself, like when that heartbeat dies off and you feel like it should start beating again, and it doesn't, then you feel like something overtake you at this moment. You feel like almost started to feel like an animal. And the first person who realizes it is just you, Cora. You're standing down there. You're down there looking still at this person's eyes. You look back at him and you see them trying to lap up some blood, even though there's bodies that you're on top of them. But at that moment, you latch onto his neck and you just start draining the last that is in him. And you two, Mitchell and Eldrick, start doing this too. You start grabbing whoever you can that may have came up on top of you because bodies were thrown on top of you, or those underneath you. But you desperately just start drawing and sinking your fangs into whatever you can to get as little bit more of this out of you. And as you're doing this and you lose track of time as this goes on, you hear a voice like just booming from above you. And it screams to you, climb out, children of Cain, climb out. It's time to raise your swords. And as you hear that, you see the voices, the laughter, it stops, and you see these figures staring down at you. And with the new, especially you, Cora, and all three of you actually, with you being elder and even Eldrick having the cancer, you feel this like imbued again with like a sense of power that you haven't felt in forever. And you soon find yourself like stepping on people's faces and just like using their bodies to get out, or digging your hands in dirt. And you realize that you're at this moment that you're thrown in a pit that was like 20 feet deep, that was dug, and it was about like 15 feet in circumference. And you find yourself like crawling out like inch by inch, and you see these people above you that are no longer laughing, and you can see them looking straight down you, cold and callous, and not even looking like the humanity you surrounded yourself with at this point. And eventually, as you get your way over and you get your waist over it, you like fall up like almost in the fetal position, Cora. You turn and you look and you see that there's other figures climbing out of this hole. And as you look down the hole, you realize that there's just bodies down there that aren't going to come back. They're no longer part of the living, and they almost look like they were destroyed, or they're just even torn apart at times. But as you look around, and this includes you, Eldrick, and Mitchell too, as you guys come upon the edge of this hole and you're sitting there and you're looking dazed, you see that there's about like if you were to guess, 20 to 30 people just like you that are sitting there. And as these figures that are standing take a step back, that is looking upon you, before you have a moment to even think about the situation you're in, you hear that booming voice again. And it says, children, look upon this hill. And as you guys turn around and look, you feel almost magnetized, drawn to this individual. To you, Eldrick, and to you, Mitchell, this feels like when you were in military training, especially when you went through either your first like boot camp, basic training boot camp, or you went through officer school, when you had that figure, your first morning that you had to get up at 3:30, 4 in the morning to go out and do exercises and physical therapy, and you had a figure standing on a podium talking down to you. Yeah, it almost feels like that, where like there was a lack of sleep, but you're so drawn to this person and you're expecting this person to give you the answers that you need to graduate these military schools. You're feeling like that with this. You realize that figure standing upon this hill is going to be the figure that's going to lead you to where you need to be. Cora, you feel almost like how you felt with your husband on your wedding night, before you found out the way that he was, before you found out that he was an alcoholic animal that he was, when you were looking up above, when you were looking up at him, when you guys were taking your wedding bed and you saw him, you saw at that time a sense of someone who's going to protect you and take care of you your whole life, but someone who's going to love you. You feel like that looking upon this hill. So what is this hill? This hill is actually the dirt that was taken out to make this pit. And it was compacted. And there's actually torches that are kind of along this hill, and there's a figure standing on top. And behind this figure, as you look, you see a huge raging bonfire that's probably like 30 yards above him. And you see him standing there, and you see shadows that seem to be oddly swarming around his body as he speaks. But he's majestic, and he has your total focus and attention drawn upon him. And he says, children, and he points to a distance. And as you guys look, you want to follow his hand. You feel like his hand's going to give you some kind of answer. You guys look and you realize at this moment that with this new Cainite blood, which you don't know obviously what a Cainite is at this time, you can see the stars are clear. You can see the desert out before you, but you can see we're like almost a mile away on almost like a gentle plateau. You can see like a hacienda, like a white a building, and you can see like some light there. And you can tell that this is a residence and that there's people there. And he screams, children, look upon that. There resides those that want to destroy you for the gift that you have just received. They are servants of demons and gods that want to feed you to their masters. He's like, they are slaves and they want to destroy you. But instead of giving them opportunity to destroy you, go down upon them and rain upon them death and destruction, and show them that you are the one that is controlling your fate. And then you see, as you guys are still looking, you see these shadows come up behind them, and like they almost like take off towards that direction, and you see the figure disappear. And then you see the voices behind you go, like they scream, they go, let's go, and they just start running. And you find yourself almost like an animal pack, like a pack of antelopes or buffalo or whatever that you've seen in your time. You see yourself following, and you realize like you can hear the ground, and you can hear like the of like more than the 30 that came out, but also those that were around there, just feet just hitting the ground, dust coming up. And you find yourself like running, like with this, like you haven't ran like this in forever. Like you feel like alive, more alive than you did when you were alive. And as you come across this, you're running this mile, the distance seems to shred like the flesh that was underneath you and above you in that pit. As you guys start coming, you're running through desert, you're stepping on tumbleweeds and just knocking over cactuses. They do not faze you whatsoever. They're thorns, and you're just burrowing through. And like I said, you can feel like the reverberation, you can feel the vibrations of the steps happening, and it brings out like the side of you that it almost feels free, like in a way, like you're not chained down at all by any of the things that chained you down before. And as you're rushing up, you get closer and closer to this hacienda, and you realize that there's a slight hill that goes up, and it goes from desert to like finely manicured, like green grass that's taken care of. And up on top of this hill before you reach it, you can see there's like people that are outside, and there's like a mariachi band that's playing, and there's like servants that are in white, and there's people that are like lingering around there. There's a fountain that has like an angel there with water that's being poured out. And you guys just come up, boom, and you tear up on top, like, up on this hill, and this finely manicured grass is getting destroyed, and you guys come upon these people, and just like that ravages side of you guys that came out, and you guys are almost like pointing this, especially you, Eldrick, because like this is who the fuck you are, man. Like these people are below you, and like this is just you showing your dominance, and you guys fall upon them like a wave of destruction, and there's just like screaming, and you hear like the mariachi band stop playing, and you hear just like their instruments getting destroyed, carnage, and you're falling upon one person, another, and you jump upon another, and soon you find when you're going upon someone else, you're sliding a little bit on this marble concrete that's out there because there's so much blood, and you're losing your footing, and there's like bodies, like someone in front of you, one of the group that came with you tackles someone and just falls in this fountain, and it's just like ripping their throat apart. And you guys as you guys hit upon this outdoor area, you soon are quick to wipe it out, but you hear screams and you hear people fleeing inside, and as you guys see the people fleeing inside through these two wooden doors that are almost in an arch, they're like double doors, and there's two of them. You guys just rush in there almost like termites going through a tunnel that they made. As you fall in there, you're grabbing and you're reaching, and it's almost like you're shoving aside people that came with you to get on these, to get to them. But as this blood you start quenching your thirst with your blood, you start realizing that the tide, the wave that you guys were that hit this hacienda, is slowly being pushed back. And there's a moment, and three of you were probably in this moment, where there's about 10 of these Sabbat members that are in this hallway just making their way forward, and there's a figure that comes running around a corner, and he looks at you, and he looks to be like Mexican, but he has like these long claws that come out of him, and his eyes are blaring red, and he leaps. And there's a moment where, Mitchell, you're standing like, holy shit, you're taken aback, but he leaps over you because you're in the middle of sliding on some blood that was on the hallway, and he falls like on three people that came there with you. And as you turn around, you look, you see all three just rolling around, and savage, you see the hand come up and it's slicing down, but eventually you see he's overtaken, and there's more of the stampede that came with you fall upon it. Everything is intense to you guys. Your vision at this point is almost shaking. You feel warm blood that just like is sprayed across your face. There's a moment, a couple times, where you guys got to wipe the blood that's all out of your eyes because something gets on you. You're trying to, again, stability is hard because you're sliding, but you keep clawing forward and you keep making your way. You guys soon like are split into smaller hallways as you're ripping doors open, and you're finding people in there hiding, and you're just jumping upon them. But there's a moment with you, Cora, as you're going through a hallway, you see from your right like a huge figure just falls through a wall of the hacienda, this hallway, and just drops on its side, and it's looking at you, and it's just this monstrosity, and you see that it has like limbs that are too long for it to be, and it has like a jaw that is like elongated, but you're looking at its chest, and you see at its chest there's like three like faces of children that you see on there, and their mouths are silently moving as if they're trying to communicate. They can't have vocal cords. And you actually, in the middle of all this, you fall on your knees and you start looking at it. You feel this odd sense of connection with it, like you're one with it, or you can understand it, and you start realizing that that there's some kind of special about this. And as you start touching one of the children's face that are embedded in its chest, you see that all three of the eyes close, and this beast stops breathing, and then you leap on over and you continue with the carnage. There's a time with Mitchell while you're running ahead, and even with you, Eldrick, while you see figures begging. At one point, Eldrick, you look at this figure begging and you feel empowered, and you simply smile as you leap on it, and you feel like you're taking its life. Eldrick, you're sitting there and you do it, and you wish that you could stop it, but at a point you realize that these are the enemy, and that they're the ones that are it's either them or you, and you feel the survival instinct that you haven't felt for the last like 30 years since the Great War. So as you guys slowly start making it through these hallways, and you don't even know how long time has gone by, you make it into this grand dining area, and you see as you come around, everyone seems to like slow down, and like the frantic movement ahead and attacking has seemed to like calm. And as you go through this door, you realize you see a figure standing there, and he looks to be maybe of Spanish descent, definitely not like Aztecian or Mexican. And he has a white tie on, and he's a really nice, like a maroonish tie, a white suit, white shirt with a really nice maroonish tie. but the suit has like blood splattered on it, and you see that there's 3 figures standing around him. And he's kind of like at the far wall, and as you guys start coming in this dining area, and it's really like 150 feet by 150 feet. It's rather large, like the whole large banquets. You start realizing that the numbers that you had, that you felt the strength in numbers, you're not quite feeling at this moment, because you realize that there's only probably about 10 to 15 of you left. And you weren't realizing at this time in your own personal journey through this that people were getting destroyed that were coming with you. You see this figure standing there, and you see this. He's almost like trying to talk to you in a way, almost trying to convince you. And you find, like, at first, like, not quite you 3 because you're coming in the room later, but you see the people who were in there before you seem to be falling under its sway. But at that moment, right when you start feeling almost like this man's worth listening to, a shadow comes up from behind him and just wraps. It's thick. It's almost like 2 feet in diameter, wraps around his head and his upper body, and gently you see it almost like contract, and then it just fucking, you see like the top third of his body just is ripped off of him, and it just falls to the ground and slowly starts becoming ash. At that moment, you see the 3 figures who you smell, and you can hear the heartbeat as mortal, look at it in panic and turn around and look at you guys left in the room, and you all just fall upon them. Just those 3 figures and start ripping at them. So everything at this moment starts slowing down, and this, like a phase, this feeling and this experience, it's almost like coming down from something, and you slowly start realizing like this is different. That you're not quite sure how to interpret what happened. Maybe you, Eldrick, a little bit, but definitely not you, Cora and Mitchell. At the time, don't know how to interpret this. But before that can be done, as you're standing in this room, you see the figure come walking through that was on top of the hilltop. And he comes walking towards you guys. He's a man, he's wearing blue jeans, and he has like a country western shirt on. And he looks like maybe that he could be a mixture between a Native American tribe of some sort and white. He has a longer hair to about the back of his neck. He's wearing a cowboy hat, has some like cowboy boots on, and you see him walking towards you 3 and a group of 3 others, and almost like 6 of you guys. And this is the figure that had enraptured you so much, that had drawn you and led you. But you're looking at him now, and you're not getting that sense that you got from before of like majesticness or of him being a figure that could give you the answers. Now you're still in awe of him because you look at him and you realize that he's very pale for what his skin color and complexion should be. Like, he tells you, like, please follow me, just come with me. And you kind of feel like a little remnants of that maybe he might lead you in the right direction, to where you guys go outside with him, and he tells you to follow. And it almost starts at this point feeling like spiritual with them. Like you're walking in the desert following this guy behind you, like with no light but the moon and the stars. And really at this moment, being away from the carnage that happened, being away from everything that happened before, you start realizing what you have been given, where you can hear like the animals in the desert, and you can hear stuff that you normally couldn't hear, the insects, the small beasts that live there. You can feel the breeze even more. You can look up the stars, and the stars are just totally fucking amazing at that time when you're walking and you're following them. And the moon almost feels like brighter, and it reveals more than it ever revealed to you. And you guys are slowly walking in the desert for you don't even know how long, and out of game, it's like for a few hours, but you just keep following this man until you come upon like an almost where the desert starts to fade away, and you come upon like a riverbed in a way, where there's a black river that comes through it that you see there. So as you come upon this riverbank, he tells you guys to sit, and he's like, this is for you and not for me. And he turns around and he walks off into the desert again. And you can't quite see him, but at the time as you guys are looking at this river, you notice that, especially you, Mitchell and Kara, because you guys are dealt with outdoors, your whole life, you realize there should be like some kind of reflection of the moon or some kind of light, but you really don't see that. It's just pure blackness. And at this point, Mitchell, you feel like a affinity, you feel connection to it. Like, this is weird. This is a moment where you're like, you feel, and like, yeah, lack of a better term, connected with it. Like this belongs, and you belong with it. And as you guys are standing there, you notice that this black, as the river goes by and it's staying black, you notice in the middle almost the blackness starts to well up a little bit. And as it wells up, you see a figure starting to slowly be formed, and it's a silhouette of a man. And as this figure starts walking towards you guys on the bank, you don't feel threatened, though, especially you, Mitchell. You feel like that. You feel like welcoming with this. And so this figure slowly starts walking towards the bank of the river. And as it gets to the river, the shadows, almost like oil, start sliding off of him. And the figure is about 6'2", very Nordic looking in nature, very pale. He's at this time completely naked. The side of his head are both shaved. He has shorter hair on top, but he has a longer beard that is blonde that comes down. You see on his face and on the side of his head, and even all over his torsos, you see like old runic tattoos that, Eldrick, you said you have academics, right?
Yeah, academics and occult.
You recognize academics-wise that these are somewhat pagan symbols, but you're not like quite, you know what I mean, familiar with what they are, but you can tell that they're definitely pagan. And he's standing there and he's looking at you six. You notice oddly as he's standing there, you feel a warmth coming up from behind you guys, and you start hearing a crackle of a fire. And as you guys turn around and look at you, you see the figure who led you here is starting to try to start a bonfire. And when you turn around and look back at this figure that's standing in front of you, you can see his eyes are very sharp blue, but you notice that like there's blackness that comes and rolls at different shapes of his eyes. So you have his eyes here, right? The whites and the rear piercing blue, but at random times they'll become pitch black, and then it'll fade and it'll go back, and then it'll come in almost like a spider web effect at times. And you also start noticing that the tattoos of the runes that he has on him will slightly move. And you're starting to it took you a little bit to notice, but you see like they move a little bit, they'll stop, or they might move a little bit. After the fire started, and this figure is also very, lack of a better term, scary. This is like an apex predator to you guys. You look at it and you sense there's nothing human about this. This man is still. He doesn't blink. He's simply just there looking upon you. And eventually the figure who starts the fire comes up to him and brings a robe. The robe is just a simple brown robe, nothing fancy, nothing inscribed. And the figure slides the robe over. It's naked, almost like a shell, because you got a feeling that this body is actually hiding something within that is so much more than you thought could be capably be held in a body at this time. So this figure sits down in front of you. And at this moment, you realize this figure goes from a weird, almost apex predator god to an instant peer and mentor. You don't feel threatened, but out of character, by the way, all that use of on the hill, that's obviously presence that was being used. He's not using that on you guys here. He's simply just sitting here as you guys sit in a circle with him almost at the head of the circle. First, he tells you, and you guys already all know, about what you are. He says that you're Cainites. He says that the story of Cain, which I'm not going to go through because everyone watching and you guys, I take it, are all familiar, right? You're pretty familiar. So
Yes.
It tells you the whole story of Cain and tells you about how they're founded, and he starts talking about humanity and how humanity, while he appreciates what they give upon your type, and when you hear him talk, he almost talks in and I don't want to say in the hippie loving nature kind of way, but he pretty much says that like they are our sustenance, they are our food, but for us to even pretend that we are like that anymore is foolishness. You know, what rancher, you know, like what man who tends a flock pretends to be part of that flock to guide it in the right direction. So he tries to give you parables and that, and to understand that you guys are above humanity now. He tells you about his story. He says about how when he was that he was a warrior in Scandinavia, that he was a Viking, and that his sire first came upon him in the form of a Christian Catholic missionary and came upon him, but instead gave him the dark gift of blood, making him his ghoul and his servant. And for how 300 years he was a slave to this man, and how this man broke him of his pagan beliefs and taught him the form of Christianity, but also while breaking him down and building him up, made him perform and made made him do atrocities and things that are against his nature, but how he's thankful that that man showed him what he was and eventually gave him the dark gift. But he tells you, though, when he did receive the gift of Cain, him with others of his brethren eventually revolted. Soon he diablerized his sire, taking his soul and his essence because he was too weak to hold on to it. He talks about the antediluvians, and he says about how what you guys did there was purge servants of the antediluvians, and how the antediluvians are ones that want to come upon and awaken and feast on us and want to use us as if we were the cattle. I want to take this gift away from us. And it is our duty as Sabbat to stop them and to find them and destroy any elders. And also, though, getting closer to Cain when we can and finding any way that we can get closer to Cain. And he explains to you the concept of the Sword of Caine, and that's what the Sabbat is. But he tells you, though, within the Sabbat, they have their own issues, too. And for one thing, for all the displeasure and the grudges he holds against his sire for what he put him through, he is thankful for his sire, and especially for absorbing his sire's essence, because he learned that the Sabbat is plagued with infernalism, that is plagued with deals with agents that are much beyond our understanding and our need, and how for the foolishness that his sire believed in, that his concept of Christianity and his concept of Lucifer and Satan are true, and how this group, that the Sabbat that was created and formed for total freedom and to also keep the antediluvians at bay, needs to be monitored and needs to be purged. He talks about how he's going to show you he's going to mentor you and show you the ways of the Sabbat, and how he's going to show you what will need to be done to keep the Sabbat on the right path. And he says, while some of you may scream about freedom and you may hear others scream about freedom, that total freedom would be total annihilation if that was the case. While our sect and our group depends on freedom, we also need to be coordinated to stop the devils and those antediluvians and the elders that control their kind and their slaves and the ones that want to imprison us and to take our souls and feed off of us. And that is where the narrative leads off.
Hello, folks. Have you ever wished you could have an easy way to find gameplay videos and podcasts, or just media in general that deals with your favorite White Wolf role-playing games? Or have you ever wished you could find a forum to share gameplay that you have recorded, one which wouldn't be drowned out by random posts and discussion, so that your media could get the attention you want? Well, we have the answer for you in a Facebook group we run called White Wolf RPGs Gameplay and Media. The group is specifically ran with the sole intent of it being a one-stop shop for people to view or share media involving the games we all love. We take thorough steps to ensure the page does not become cluttered and is easy to traverse. We are currently over 1,000 members strong, and we are continuing to rapidly grow, with new media being shared every day. Stop on by. We hope to see you there. High Level Games, the industry's first choice in taking your games to the next level. We are a podcast blog and new media network at highlevelgames.ca. We have blog posts about all of your favorite games going up 5 days a week, and a podcasting network with actual plays and shows that discuss role-playing games, with more rolling out all the time. We are on iTunes, Twitch, and YouTube. Find out more information at highlevelgames.ca, a site that certainly isn't controlled by a shadowy board of directors of otherworldly origin. That's highlevelgames.ca.
Please, help. They're coming.